So I've got 7:01, call the meeting to order. First up, the meetings from October 3rd, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to thumb through those?
Yep.
And any edits or proposed changes?
Yep.
Okay, is there a motion to accept them as written?
So moved.
Thank you. My apologies, so sorry. I'm sorry, was there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Zulik,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Melissa, it's not our usual order. That threw me off.
Oh no, is it? Could never remember. Is it
I mean,
usually Farrington, Zulik?
It's fine. I'm always first though. So I was like, right? Isn't that right?
I don't know anymore.
It's fine. I was like, what do you mean, Farrington?
She's
Okay.
almost on vacation. Leave her alone.
Yeah. She's like, let's get through this.
Okay, next up, NOI for 26 Meadow Lane. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, and the provisions of the Southborough Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southborough Town Code, Chapter 154, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, October 24th, 2024, at 7:00 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent and a stormwater management permit for a project located at 26 Meadow Lane, map 56, lot 14, for the applicant William Putri. The project description is the construction of a flexible development with 3 single-family units and 1 duplex unit. Mr. Putri, I hope I'm getting your name correct. Welcome.
Thank you. It's Poutre, but close enough. It's
Okay.
I think
My apologies.
Peter just joined, so he just need to accept the panelist update. But I see him in the attendees. He's not moving over. Yeah, he hasn't accepted the invitation. Oh, there he goes. Okay. I think he's having some issues.
Okay. Huh. Now he's listed twice.
Yeah. There we go. Okay.
Oh, great.
Getting there. Sorry.
No problem. Welcome,
This
Peter.
is so glitchy tonight. I don't know what's going on, guys. I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
It's all right. You probably want to kick me off in a minute. It just keeps getting glitchy. I don't dare touch anything. Melissa, if we're going to look at any plans, you're going to do it. I don't dare do anything with this computer at the moment. Good evening, Peter Bemis, Engineering Design. Did you already open the hearing? I apologize.
Yes. Yeah, the notice has been read, so if you've got a.
Okay, great. All right. Well, we don't have a DEP file number. I know this is going out for S&P review, and Melissa did suggest that Lucas also look at the wetlands. So I'm prepared to continue tonight, obviously, but I would like to just introduce the project generally, and then talk about just some of the aspects of the project. So Melissa, thank you. If we just start with like an overview plan of that's probably the best. What it doesn't afford us is the opportunity to go all the way out to Valley, but understand this property is about 8 acres, of which starts at Valley. The south would be Meadow, north is DCR land, and then the old Stony Brooks Golf Course abuts part of this. And then we've got We've got some land that Mr. Poutre still owns, adjacent to the old airstrip, and then land of Carriage Hill. And both of those two pieces have soil absorption systems on them already. And then obviously to the west is DCR land as well. So overview is that we're proposing to have 4 building sites, of which there's 5 units, meaning that there's 3 single family, 1 duplex. The 3 single families are east, north, and then the duplex is the one on the west here. It would appear from the street to look as a single family home, but it is a duplex. We'll have 1 common driveway to serve the 2 units at the rear, single driveways for the 2 units left and right. You wish to designate open space. Most of the land to the west would be open space. That land to the west also includes a detention basin, if you will. It was not constructed through any permitting authority of the commission. Back when the runway was constructed, the contractor was smart enough back in the day to have made an area for the stormwater from that runway to go someplace. And this is where it went, into an isolated area. Wetland plants being what they are, opportunistic, they thrived in that location. Our proposal is to remove that runway from its western limit, east as far as we can, 100%. Then we've got a property owner at 30 Meadow Lane that has a driveway in the rear of the home. That's basically where Mr. Callander, this is his home, would bring his plane. So it's set up for that. The gentleman still uses this driveway. I assume he's got some cars and whatnot. He parks back there. So we need to preserve a 12-foot wide driveway from Valley to his residence. And we also recognize that there's a lot of people in this neighborhood that actually walk up and down that driveway. So part of our proposal is to continue to have that public access available through that portion of the site, regardless of whether that open space is public or private. I know Mr. Poutre would like the town to accept it. I know Melissa made a comment that probably it's so encumbered that maybe the town doesn't accept it. So, maybe there's some way to at least ensure that the general public still has access to it, because they are using it today. So it'd be nice to get rid of all of that old pavement, but we can't. And we're taking on a project in that section of the site that needs to have some protection to the resource areas that abut it. But the goal here is to get as much impervious area eliminated, because this runway is 1 acre of impervious area today, and it's been that way, obviously, even though it hasn't been used now for a number of years. When we're done, there'll be less impervious area here overall, but at the same time, we did not take that approach to mitigate our impacts. We looked at this as saying we're going to mitigate 100% of all new impervious areas as well. So we have infiltration, we have a stormwater collection from the roof areas for every dwelling that'll be infiltrated. We have a stormwater system to infiltrate stormwater coming from the driveways. So all the driveway areas will be picked up. We also recognize that Meadow Lane doesn't really have this sort of stormwater that you might want to treat that section of the roadway. So we're actually adding in another catch basin there along Meadow Lane to improve that. And we're connecting our system to this as well, so that there's not any other impact. There's a flow-through path, if you will. The town did not have an easement through a portion of Mr. Poutre's property to the west. He did grant an easement. We did that last year for access for the stormwater to continue on its path down to the reservoir. So Melissa did provide me with a wetland map that was done by Grady Consulting. I guess I somewhat was familiar with this, in that I know that there was some drainage problems there with these soil absorption systems that are there. What we probably could have done, looking at the timing on this, because it's 22. The flags are still fresh. We could just rely on that line. I am not looking for you to establish a jurisdictional boundary that will run with this project. I just want to have the ability to remove asphalt from that section of the site. By the same token, the area to the west, that isolated wetlands that's to the north, I spoke to Melissa. I thought maybe the commission, we had a conversation about this too. We showed you some evidence of mapping, aerial mapping, that was just open field. And then you can see when the runway got built, they built that basin. So it isn't a natural wetland. It was made by the contractor that put in the runway. I still would like permission to do work, within the buffer zone to that resource area that we've identified, because it's really just to eliminate all this asphalt that exists from the runway. One other housekeeping item was that I know Zach prepared the application, and when we looked at this project, we did look at it as a redevelopment project. I mean, it has been developed as a runway. It was recognized as a runway, and I think that it has some, we at least have some ability to represent it that way. There was a hangar here. The hangar's been removed. That's actually in the middle of that duplex. But it's definitely not a virgin piece of land. If anything, it's a highly altered piece of land. A great deal of fill from Carriage Hill was brought down here to build this runway in the manner that you see it today. Those are my highlights. I look forward to working with the commission on this. We did meet with the planning board. We introduced the project to them. We'll be submitting that as a formal application. We had to go before them informally to start. So we're looking forward to presenting that to them. We'll start that process in December. You folks have another meeting between now and then, so we probably can get up to speed a lot more here and address some of Melissa's issues, and then the issues that Fuss and Lucas will come up with. We'd have those at hand as well for the next meeting. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and thank you for the quick download here. Appreciate it.
Oh, no, of course. Thank you, Peter. I suspect that doing work within the buffer zone to the old detention pond is something that the commission would certainly approve, especially because it's for the removal of this asphalt. I understand it was originally built as a detention pond. It sounds like this would be a pre-1996 pond that hasn't been actively maintained through the years. So it is, despite its origins, legitimately a wetland. But it looks like the work being proposed is far enough away, and the work itself is its own mitigation, removing the pavement. So I don't see any.
I see it as a positive too, Ben,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So I don't see any trouble with that. But before we really get into it, I think we have to wait for Fuss and O'Neill and Lucas to go through things. And of course, with a DEP number, we can't act anyway.
Right. So if any of the other members have any other comments or want any other information at this time, otherwise, we have a full submission package and we'll be just supplementing it as we go forward at this point.
Absolutely. And that reminds me, I see a hand up in the audience, listed as David. I'll be getting to you in just a moment. I just want to poll the commission first to see if there are any questions or comments from the commission regarding this project. Looks like there are none right now. Melissa, could you promote up David so that we can chat?
You could just, introduce yourself with your name and address, please.
Okay, I didn't, am I up there?
You're good.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, this is David Williams, 25 Meadow Lane. I live across the street from the project. So I just had a question. So the lot where the hangar was and where the duplex is being proposed is directly across the street from us. And we just noticed when the two houses to the west were constructed, there was a lot of water that when it was wet that ended up around the hangar, and it was pretty deep, and it hadn't existed before. And I think Mr. Poutre, offered me an explanation for what he thought went on and why that happened. But I'm curious why the construction of those two homes would have caused that. And then secondly, what was the remedy? How did that end up getting resolved? It's it hasn't rained a long time now, but clearly at one point something was put in and it seems to have been resolved. So I don't know if Mr. Demas was involved in that or who, but just trying to understand what happened.
Yeah,
there.
sure. No, and David's absolutely right. I mean, they basically had trapped the water because the development of the lot that's adjacent to that built the grade up along the common boundary, and the area to the front was lower. So unfortunately that's what happened, is water got trapped there. But as they started developing that property, they did mitigate that, and they did put a drain in to carry the water away. But there was a time period when it wasn't done, and it was during a very heavy rain period.
Oh yeah.
This past year, I mean, well, we started with a little bit of a surplus, and now we're definitely in a drought. So it changed each year.
So did that the way it was mitigated, is that along basically following the driveway at 24 Meadow Lane? Do you know?
Yeah, if that's the next one to the development side, yes. I don't recall the numbers, so I apologize. But we're 24A and B.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So it's going to be 22.
Yeah,
Right.
So
So
22
you
is there, and it seemed like the drainage went right along the
exactly
edge of the driveway. Yeah, okay.
that riprap. So what's happening is now the overall system for this whole site, we're going to have these on-site chambers to collect the water and then infiltrate within those zones. And then we'll
Okay.
also be taking water to the north. So it'll continue to go to that basin to the north. And then some of it will go to the south and west into the Meadow Lane stormwater system.
Okay, all right.
And
And
there'll
that's
be no surface water impoundments going forward with this proposal.
okay. And that's all gravity. It just looked like you had to kind of cut through what was the runway to get over to the other side, is what I assume you did.
That's right. That's why I said it was highly manipulated ground, because I'm sure
Yeah.
that the ground didn't do that before they moved Carriage Hill down the hill.
Okay. Yeah. No, it is. That's a lot of fill that doesn't drain. So I can appreciate the challenges there.
There have been a few.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That was all. Thank you for taking my question.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Poutre, I see that your hand is up. I'm calling you in just half a second here. So Peter, I just happened to, I forgot to ask this previously. I'm sure Boston O'Neill is going to bring it up too. Just any soil test pit data in the area of the proposed infiltration?
Yes, so we've tested throughout the whole site.
Okay.
So we pretty much know what the ground's like everywhere here.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Zach I thought had put that on the existing conditions plan, Ben, but if we're missing some data points, we'll try to make sure we supplement.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't see it on there, and I'm sure again, Boston O'Neill would also. It's not. It's not on the plan set that we have. Doesn't have the test pit data, so that's something we would need to see.
Yeah, we'll supplement.
That was part
I
of my.
have to say that this kind of came together quickly. Mr. Poutre's got his hand raised. He can assure you that, we knew we had to go to planning board, and then we weren't sure about the timing for that filing. And then he made it clear he wanted to be in for this. It wasn't necessarily this meeting, but your meeting cycle. Because I knew we would never get our DEP file number this quickly. They're just not turning them around that fast.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's true. There's been a slowdown. Mr. Poutre.
Yes, I just wanted to quickly respond a little bit to David's concern, which was underneath where that hangar was. there was asphalt. And it was complete asphalt that would not allow water to penetrate into the ground there. So when Mr. Williams called me and said he was having issues, what was happening was it was ponding on top of that asphalt. And so we literally broke up the asphalt. When we did that, combined with the other pieces that were taken care of, for the property as it was built on 22, that really made the problem go away.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, which makes sense. I know it's a very flat area in there. So any little impediment, any impediment to infiltration will cause drainage trouble. Okay,
David
see, I
did
see
raise his hand again.
David's hand is back up. Do you have a new question?
Yeah, sorry, David Williams, 25 Meadow Lane. My only point on where that building was is it did not flood at all. Like it was, there was asphalt there before and it didn't flood at all until the homes were under construction. So that was just a concern with what got broken somehow or affected and how it's resolved. I mean, we don't see anything now that suggests there's an issue, but the point is that asphalt was there before, but yet it did not flood.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so unless there's anything further from the commission, I think we're looking at Mr. Poutre. I see your hand is up again. Do you have a new question or comment?
I apologize. I didn't take it down. It hit my little.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So we're looking for a motion to continue this to our next public meeting 3 weeks from now.
So moved.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Smith.
And yes. And so Peter, you're on the agenda later on for 2 East Main. We'd be happy to take a couple minutes right now.
If you don't mind, thank you. I was gonna just say I'll come back and Melissa could do me a jingle, but if you don't mind doing it now, that's easier. So we
Yeah, no,
are on site, but Tyler did get there. He's starting to straighten some things out. Yeah, there's not very much that's been moved. I needed to get a truck in there and make it accessible, and he's done that. I am trying to move a lot more of this material over to my son Zachary's project, which is now ready to receive it. So next week we can start putting a dent into this. I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm trying my best. I did go to the planning board Monday night too to discuss the project. and I made a commitment to them that they're going to get this filed before year end out. So we're going to start making some progress. I know that some folks have been wanting to see something happen there, and not just removing the millings, but to see something permanently happen there, and that's what we're working towards.
Sure. We just, with respect to the millings, I think it does go back to June or even May. And I think the commission is at the point where we kind of we just have to act here. I will say, and I think, as you know, our how do I put this? We've issued enforcement orders certainly in the past, and those always come with the threat of fining. The fines have never been used or even mentioned in any context other than just getting, compliance with the regulations. And in fact, when folks bring a site into compliance every single time, we will put the fines into forbearance as the work is being done. And when the work gets done, we get rid of them altogether. But I think the commission is now at a place where we have to start talking about an enforcement order here, because the millings are, they're within the 20-foot no touch zone.
I don't believe they are. We have erosion control in place, Ben, so I have to say they're not, but I don't want to correct you. I mean, to the extent you believe they are.
If I'm wrong, then my apologies, Peter. I haven't gone out and walked, on your property behind them. This is my observations from the road and what I thought I saw for vegetation. So I could easily be mistaken on that. We're certainly within the buffer zone.
They are in the buffer zone for
Yeah.
sure. Like I
Yeah.
said, they, the town needed a place to put this stuff. We allowed it, and here I am, and I didn't follow up with asking for yet another extension. So I
Yeah.
put myself in this position, and I could do one better and just refile a permit request with you if that would avoid then I guess at this point, that may be easier for both of us, as I can file either an RDA or I could file a notice, or, because we are gonna remove the millings, but it's
Yeah.
gonna take some time. So
I
it's
mean,
up to you how you wanna go next.
Yeah. What kind of time are you talking about, Peter?
Because not ultimately, not all of them are gonna come out of there. We're gonna
Right.
need some of these to do the project as well, but I was gonna try to get, as much of them out of there as I could before the holiday season, kind of started in here, and I wasn't counting Halloween.
Yeah.
So, but I understand. I prefer not to get an enforcement order, but if I get it. It's been going on for a bit, and we did try to do this a couple other times, and
Yeah.
again, public utilities are using the property, and I've been a good guy, and I don't prevent them from doing it because there's no place for anyone to park or do anything downtown.
Understood.
So,
So Melissa, previously with this, we've issued our standard letter. Is that,
Yes.
we did? Okay.
yeah, I have standard letters from Melissa. I will acknowledge that.
Yeah,
I
okay.
have them.
Um,
She's done her job.
yeah.
And I don't think by you not hitting me with an enforcement order is the commission not doing its job either. We are, we're working towards it. I'm trying to do something positive down there.
Yeah,
I did this, I didn't do this maliciously and put the millings there myself.
yeah. No, it's understood. But we are in a situation where it's also it's a very visible location
Yes, it is.
in town.
And they're not eroding, they're not causing any runoff to come off the property, and there's no erodible surface anywhere. Those things I can also assure you of.
Right. We have, as I'm sure it's not surprising to you, we have had other residents in town with stockpiles within buffer zones with whom we've had to work, and very rarely it's gotten to the enforcement order stage. I guess I'd like to pull the commission here. Thoughts, feelings on this issue?
I'll just say, I think it has been a long time, and we haven't really seen much progress. And it puts us in a position where we feel like we have to show you we're serious. And so I think that, it's something we probably should move forward on, with the understanding that what we really want is for you to remove those pilings.
Thank you, Melinda. I certainly take no relish in this at all, Peter. We'd like to get the buildings moved. If it would be acceptable to the commission, I mean, we could vote to issue an order, but vote for Melissa to issue it in 2 weeks if there hasn't been substantive progress, or we could do something like that. It's again,
It gives me a shot to try to get something done, Ben, and that was my goal, to try to have something done for the before Thanksgiving for sure. So
I just threw that out there. I think I saw one head nodding yes, maybe, but is this something that the commission would feel comfortable with? But if not, please, speak your mind.
Yeah, I think
I'm fine either way, folks. You've been very kind. So whatever you feel like you need to do works for me.
So I'm sorry, Kevin, I didn't.
Oh no, I was going to say I think the 2-week delay sounds like a good idea, just to give Peter a little bit more time, but, you know, we were promised that things would be cleaned up by this meeting and they weren't, so.
Agreed.
Yeah, so, Liz, thumbs up, thumbs down to the 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm fine with that, but
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I think everyone's reiterated.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think here we're just kind of identifying, an endpoint.
Yeah.
But trying to, do it, you know, in a way that isn't burdensome, and frankly, isn't burdensome to us either. We'd rather not have to go through and track an enforcement order and go through all of that. We'd be talking about an enforcement order to remove the asphalt millings from the buffer zone at 2 East Main. And this order would be issued in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from this evening. If there has not been, in the judgment of our agent, substantial activity on the site to achieve the movement of the stockpiles. I feel like I could have said that in a single sentence and it just got away from me there. But Melissa, was I clear enough to?
Yep.
Okay. If I captured everyone's sentiment correctly, is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second,
Zulik,
Yes.
Arrington,
Yes,
Upton,
yes.
Smith.
Yes. Okay,
Great. All right. Thank you.
all right, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Yeah, have a good night. Appreciate it.
Good night. Okay. So next up, 142 Boston Road in NOI. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, October 24th, 2024, at 7:10 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 142 Boston Road, map 58, lot 2A, for the applicant Catherine McKee of Southborough Trails Committee. Excuse me. The project description is to install and construct a pedestrian boardwalk and footbridge. Good evening, Mr. LaPointe.
Good evening. Again, for the record, my name is Dave LaPointe with Beals and Thomas of Southborough. Here on behalf of the applicant, the Southborough Trails Committee, and also here tonight from the Trails Committee is. So you may recall that we had met a few weeks ago to discuss the proposed boardwalk and bridge project that will be installed to basically fill in the missing link of the Peninsula Trail and the Burrows Loop Trail. And I think we had pretty well covered everything at the last meeting. The main item was the fact that we didn't have a DEP file number yet. We have received that file number since the last meeting, and DEP did provide some comments, which we provided a letter to the commission responding to those comments. The other thing, just so you're aware, the project does, the bridge piece of it at least straddles the municipal boundary between Southborough and Framingham, so we did file a notice of intent with Framingham as well. We met with them last week, and they, at the time, voted to close their public hearing and issue an order of conditions. So we're all set in terms of the Framingham side of things. And like I said, we did provide a letter. Hopefully you received that response to the comments from DEP. Based on just some input from Melissa, it sounded like maybe the one item that specifically needed some clarification was the elevation of the boardwalk across the wetland area. And as noted in the letter, it likely would be approximately 2 feet above the wetland, where the wetland is. And actually, I don't know if you want to share the plans or I can share them.
Totally up to you, either way.
Okay, I'll share. Let's see. So again, the lower, if you can see my screen now, the lower area here is the boardwalk. Over here to the upper right is the bridge. But if we zoom in on each of those areas, the boardwalk, we've tried to limit the length of the boardwalk across the wetland area, particularly due to cost and just additional impacts to the wetland. So we've kind of tucked it close to the edge as best we could. And as a result, it's kind of a bowl where we're putting it. So at each end, it's going to meet the existing grade, but in the middle, it will be approximately 2 feet above the wetland area. And then we will also make sure that there will be gaps in between the decking boards across the boardwalk, so that will allow some light to penetrate through to provide light for any vegetation beneath the boardwalk.
Thank you. Yeah, we received the letter and Melissa went through it and was kind enough to give us a summary of both the letter and your responses to it. Yeah, essentially, it sounds like the DEP was looking to make sure that there is sufficient mitigation for putting the boardwalk through the wetland area. And I think we had some discussion about this last time that both the prevention of further compaction of the soils through the wetland area, as well as the wetland replication area. I think, under the act itself, provide mitigation. And I think there's a lot of value to providing public access to areas like this. And while not addressed by the act, I think that's an important aspect too. So with that, questions, comments from the commission?
And there was that question about the water quality certificate. I admit to going down the rat hole on those regulations, and I didn't see how they could possibly apply to this project, but I hope if someone feels differently, they let me know.
I guess we were just thinking that the amount of permanent impact is so minimal that whether it understanding that it's in the regulations and whatnot, but that it's such a minimal amount, whether it's really truly warranted to go through that process.
And I think ultimately that is a matter that's wholly between yourselves and the DEP. We don't really get involved in that process, other than if we see a situation where we believe the water quality cert is needed, we'll point it out to an applicant. But David, I agree with you that with such a de minimis impact, it's hard to believe that one would be required. Anybody else? If there's anybody who has joined us here this evening from the public who wishes to ask a question or make a comment, please use the raise hand function. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. Unless there's anything further from the commission, I guess next up, we're just looking for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thanks.
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Yes. And I'm trying to recall any special, did we have some sort of special condition about the replication area?
yes. Yeah, if you want to go through those quickly, essentially, what I did for the finding of facts was outline the temporary and permanent impacts to resource areas, reiterating that the boardwalk will be elevated, talking about that the mitigation is both replication, opening of the trails for the public, and lessening the impact of the existing trail and compaction of soils. So related to the mitigation area, Our standard is an 80% success rate with 2 years of monitoring to be completed annually after each growing season. The one thing I did want your input on is last time we talked about whether or not we wanted to include any type of shrubs or if just a wetland kind of meadow, native wetland meadow mix, seed mix was sufficient. So that was the only kind of additional item to discuss in terms of conditions was shrubs versus just meadow mix.
I guess from my perspective, it's a very small replication area as these things go. And just because of the size of it, I feel pretty comfortable with just the wetland seed mix. You know, if it was a larger expanse, I think there'd be much more of a case to get some shrub type plantings in there, but with such a small area, I think we'll fill in naturally pretty well. But what do others feel?
That's fine.
Yeah, it sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
All right, so with those conditions, looking for a motion to issue an order of conditions, our standard order of conditions with additional conditions as discussed this evening.
So moved.
And a second?
Second,
Thank you.
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Yes,
perfect.
great.
Good. Thank you
All right.
very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay. 116 Main Street. Where are we here? Wrong paper. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, October 24th, 2024 at 7:15 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 116 Main Street, map 52, lot 4, for the applicant and owner, Elizabeth Crowley. The project description is the construction of a garage addition and installation of a Title V compliant septic system. Good evening, Mr. Hazen.
Good evening. How's everyone tonight?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Yeah, so we received the letter from Lucas prior to the last meeting. We responded. Lucas has provided a comment letter back stating that 99% of the items were addressed. There was one remaining item, which was the mitigation. I believe we had spoken about that at the last meeting between the cars being moved inside, the dock removal, the septic improvement, and the infiltration for the roof runoff, the patio runoff. I know my client emailed today and mentioned that they, a little premature, but in a show of good faith, they removed the dock. So that has been completed at this point. So I guess
Part of the mitigation that Melissa has listed in her notes was the 60-foot planting area. I just don't have the plan in front of me. Is this within the buffers, it's within the riverfront area, the planting area?
yes, can you see my screen here?
It's loaded. Okay, so could you just point to it?
Yeah, there's the planting areas between the
yeah.
patio and the infiltration trench. It'll be an area that, you know, an additional area for stormwater to infiltrate and hopefully be absorbed by the planting area.
Okay, and it's planting area as in not grass, but actual plantings. Any thought given the native plantings?
If you'd like to condition that as something to be landscaped with native plants, that'd be fine.
Yeah, so for the commission, we're talking about mitigation to offset the alteration of somewhat more than the allowable 10% alteration of a riverfront area. We had this discussion at the last meeting. And I think we generally felt comfortable with the mitigation efforts. Usually we would one of the things we'd be looking for mitigation basically always is we focus on the 100-foot inner riparian zone, the 100 feet closest to the river. And here it's an odd situation where that area is actually mowed by DCR and is outside of the control of the property owner. So that's sort of off of the table. So just as one commissioner, I think the those various forms of mitigation, I think in total, I do think offset the additional alteration of the riverfront area. But I'm curious what other folks have to say.
Yeah, I think there was a question from the last meeting about whether there were invasives anywhere that we could condition, but we didn't think there were, but we're gonna get an update on that. I was just wondering if that.
Yeah, so the entire property is basically grass. And so other than grass being a invasive species, it's not really a there's no, knotweed or anything like that that could be removed.
Okay, thanks for checking. Yeah.
Okay, before I forget, if anyone has joined us here this evening from the public and wishes to ask a question or make a comment, please use the raise hand function and we'd love to hear from you. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. If there are no more questions or comments from the commission, I think we are in a position to close the hearing if somebody would like to make the motion.
So moved.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second,
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Smith.
Yes. And again, I don't think we have a huge number of special conditions here. I think we could probably zip through it right now. The native plantings in the planting area. The dock removal is no longer needs to be conditioned. The rest are, I think, already memorialized on the plans. Any other conditions that you've listed, Melissa?
Nope, I just have the removal of the dock. Proposed planting area shall comprise of a native seed mix and or straight native species and be maintained in perpetuity. So that was kind of the one, making sure that it's ongoing.
Perfect. Okay, if everyone's okay with those conditions, we'll be looking for a motion to issue an order of conditions that would contain our standard conditions and the two special conditions as discussed here this evening.
So moved.
Thank you. And second.
Second,
Thank you.
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Smith.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been this is a board that's been a pleasure to work with. I appreciate it. Thank
Glad to
you.
hear it. All right, have a
Take
great
care.
evening.
You too.
Thank you. Okay. 120 Turnpike Road. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, October 24th, 2024 at 7:20 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 120 Turnpike Road, map 37, lot 120-4, for the applicant FD 120 Turnpike LLC. The project description is the construction of a 60-unit apartment building. And I understand the applicant has asked for a continuance.
Yes, I received an email about 4 o'clock this afternoon, just with a quick update. They said they're working towards providing the commission with an updated site plan and supplemental materials, and appreciate the commission's patience through this process. Since the initial submittal, the plans have changed so substantially that has taken more time to provide a follow-up site plan than initially anticipated, but have been progressing outside of the public hearings, especially with plans that were likely to change. And then with that being said, with some new information becoming available, I believe Lucas is going to be providing their peer review letter to the ZBA shortly, so they're expecting that. They're requesting a continuance until our next meeting on the 14th.
Okay. We have a motion to continue.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second,
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so National Grid tree pruning and removal.
Yes. We also, if we want to let Joe go, I think
Oh, yeah. A difficult evening for you here, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Have a great night.
You too, thanks.
Thanks.
All right. So I have Joe King from National Grid is here just loading in. Just a quick background. So essentially there is a slew of trees that National Grid has submitted to the select board / planning board to have their tree hearings. There are 3 trees that have been identified that are an impact to the utility lines that are on the property of Breakneck Hill and are outside of the town's right of way. So they provided the 3 trees with pictures and comments, in both the town tree warden, Chris Leroy, and the arborist that we contract with have reviewed all of these trees and do agree with the findings that they should be removed due to either they are dead or in great, over 50% decline. They are going to leave at least like a 6 to 8 foot snag or stump, to provide that wildlife benefit in kind of as a mitigation aspect for having the dead trees removed. So this is kind of because they're on town property, we do have to issue permission since it is Conservation Commission land.
Yes.
I can share the photos if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was looking at them right now, and I looked at them earlier. I'm just having trouble visualizing where they are on the site from the pictures.
They are all along Woodland Road side.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep. So they're on, they're basically adjacent to the roadway, but just
Yeah.
off the right of way.
Yeah.
I have seen a fair number of these trees. They are definitely looking dead. Right on the edge of the road.
A lot of them,
flagged.
I think a lot of them are ash trees, so the emerald ash borer has gotten to them, things like that.
I think I was out there walking around in the dusk with traffic, so that was lots of fun tonight. This one, the ash tree is definitely dead. Makes sense to come down. The oak tree, the second one, made sense to me as well. I had a problem with the maple one because it looked tall and straight and not hanging over the lines at all. And there's even like a little gully there between the road and the tree, so it's a little challenging to get over to the trunk, but there's no rot on the trunk or anything as it was described. And so I couldn't find base decay or anything. So I was just wondering, was I looking at the wrong tree? But or does that one really is that one really such a threat?
Hi, good evening. This is Joe King, National Grid Forestry Supervisor. So I am not the arborist who inspected the trees. That was Don Crocker. However, our team consists of all certified arborists that are out looking to kind of prioritize risk and things like that. So I have not seen this particular subject tree. However, Don Crocker, who was the inspector on this project, has been with the program since 2007. Very experienced, very knowledgeable arborist. If he's usually pretty accurate in his descriptions. So if he did observe a cavity at the base, whether it was on the back side of the tree, when you mentioned the gully, my first thought as an arborist is that it's probably weakly rooted, especially if it's in an area that's prone to saturation. And again, as a utility, we don't want to take down any trees that we don't have to. We're in the business of keeping the lights on, not removing trees at random. So the reason we were out here on this project in general, this was part of our hazard tree mitigation program, which we are focused on poor performing circuits in the Commonwealth. This circuit in particular, and in fact, more specifically, Woodland Road, over the past 4 years has experienced 9 tree-caused outages. And in fact, they're all right around the same area, pole 20, pole 29, 28, right in the frontage of the Breakneck Hill Conservation Area. The number of customers affected by these outages have ranged from 5 to 65. So over a 4-year period, you're looking at more than 2 tree cause outages per year on average. And that's just from a tree perspective, not to account other motor vehicle accidents or equipment failures or things that happen further upstream. This is just on Woodland Road. So that's the reason for our assessments out there. As you mentioned, the ash and the oak certainly are prime candidates for removal. The maple, again, I have not seen, but Chris Leroy and the town consulting arborist both agreed that they should be removed.
And I have to admit, I live on this part of Woodland Road. I should recuse myself from voting, but it is the case that oftentimes this part of town loses power when all the rest of town has power. And I'm not really out for taking down trees that don't need to be taken down, but there is a lot of tree cover on both sides of Woodland Road. And if there are trees that are close to wires, and I know National Grid through the years has done a good job trimming things along the road, but it clearly has not addressed the ongoing problem of many people losing power who live in this neighborhood.
Thank you, Melinda.
And
So it's
Kevin, oh, sorry. I think this picture is a little blurry, the one on the right here, but what it's trying to show is that cavity at the base with the decay. So it may be that you weren't looking at the same one, or it might have been on the opposite side or something like that.
Yeah, I did. The one I thought matched that same, the shape. The pictures were a little tough, but
Yeah.
I did walk all the way around the base. I crossed the belly and breathed life and limb to get over there, and there was absolutely no sign. So maybe I was looking at the wrong tree. Okay.
Now that you pointed out, Melissa, I can see the cavity.
Yeah, it's blurry, but it's
Yeah, I get my question is about the leaving the snags behind. Is this something that has an ecological advantage? I don't live along Woodland Road, but I up until 3 or 4 years ago lived along a road where National Grid came and did some tree work, and 4 trees in my front yard they cut and they left so that they were 1 foot shorter than the lowest power line they could interfere with, and left these big, huge tree trunks standing without a living stick of vegetation on them. And in that case, it wasn't out of ecological concern. It was, they just didn't want to take them down. So Melissa, is this, in your experience, does it provide an ecological benefit to leave these trunk sections behind?
It does.
Okay.
It does. A lot of birds will use them, and other wildlife, especially if it, ironically, if it has decay, they'll find those little holes and bury in them.
Okay.
I do have another related question. Sometimes I've seen big piles of wood left along the side of the road. Is that the plan, or is there a plan for the parts of the trees that are cut?
Nope, all remaining debris, whether it's wood or brush, would be removed.
Okay.
And there is a hand up.
Oh, there's a hand up. Thank you,
Melissa.
Melissa. I see the name listed as Don. Welcome.
You should be.
Yeah, correct. This is Don Crocker. I'm the arborist who did the assessment out there.
Oh, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
So yeah, when I was doing the assessment out there, I got a pretty keen eye of seeing stuff fairly quickly and fairly easily. The maple tree is across from the power lines. I believe, no, it's not. It's not. It's still on the same side. But what caught my eye was the cavity as it was going through onto it. And when we tagged it, the tree is tagged with a red tag. We could see more of the problem itself. Unfortunately, the pictures I couldn't get a decent picture of onto it. But when I'm looking at these, I'm using years of experience. I've been in the field for over 40 years. So I kind of see a lot more out there. And
Yeah, so I think you convinced me that I was looking at completely the wrong tree. So I was probably looking at a perfectly healthy maple out there. It didn't have a red tag on it. It had a red tag tied to a tree near it. But the other two did have tags, but there was no other tree in the place where I was looking between those two poles. So I must have just it.
we get tagged out front of the road so it could be seen, where the tree is. But there were several red maples in that area. So,
okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Crocker. All right. If there's nothing else from the commission, I guess we're looking for a motion to issue the commission's approval for the removal of these 3 trees and the removal of all resulting vegetative material from the operation.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, your mic's off.
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
I'll abstain.
Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Just a quick question. So I believe a permit was sent over. Is that something that someone from the commission would sign off on, or do we need to resend it, or
I'll sign it and email it back to you probably tonight because I'm heading on vacation tomorrow. So I'll add that to my list.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for your help.
Good night.
Take care.
Okay. Next up, potential dog park location at Liberty Field. Do we have someone here? I see a town of Southborough listened. I don't know if that's.
I think this is Travis. Hold on. Let's see. Hopefully it is.
I'm good. You guys.
Oh,
there we go.
there you go. Your mic's off.
My apologies, everybody. Sorry for my appearance. I'm coming from hockey practice, my son's hockey practice. So I apologize.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
No worries. To those of you who don't know me, I'm the new recreation director for the town of Southborough. I think Jen Hansen or Don Dumont might be joining me, but if they're not on the attendee list, they can probably just listen in and I can update them later. So just trying to do, I apologize. We didn't send anything because this is kind of informal. About a year ago, our commission and rec department and Tim Davis, were fortunate enough to secure a $25,000 Stanton Foundation design grant for a dog park at Lundblad. We secured that grant. We were very fortunate to get it. But as we wrapped up the design process, unfortunately, there's some documentation that Mr. Cundiff and DEP were having some struggles with DEP getting. And unfortunately, the grant, the second year of the cycle after the design is construction. And unfortunately, it's sunsetting this year. And after this year, it goes away and we're not gonna be able to get it. So if the DEP, if we're gonna struggle maybe with the Lundblad location, we are scrambling to look at other locations possibly, and I know Liberty Field was a possibility. And I kind of wanted to hear what the commission thought. Melissa was open about with a condition on Liberty Drive, but in Liberty Field, but I just wanted to hear the commission out, and I appreciate everybody taking the time to hear me out. Unfortunately, it's just a very tight window, and we just hate to see the grant funding for construction disappear without giving it a thorough investigation at all sites.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for coming in tonight. So on Lundblad Field, is it the question with DEP, is it revolve around getting a fence in place with footings and so forth? Is that the problem?
No, it's unfortunately the document exists, and it's just a trouble locating. It's the we have a construction certificate of construction completion of the actual landfill in the late 90s, which we are all trying to track down. It does exist. It's somewhere.
Yeah.
We're working with DEP to try to locate it. The town is going through records. We're still looking for it. And unfortunately, with the fields that they currently are, there's going to be a post-permit application process that needs to happen for Lundblad. And unfortunately, without that certificate, we can't go through the post-permit change of use process with DEP. So we've got a tight window to find a location we can move on quickly. We have a design team lined up, but we unfortunately the design we'd have to wrap up and try to find in the next like 4 to 6 weeks, and we have basically till May to have construction procurement basically lined up, T's crossed, I's dotted, and ready to go. So the commission and Mr. Davis worked really hard to secure the grant. We have the design, and it's just it's a silly piece of silly binder that does exist somewhere, but we just can't.
So I'm sure you've asked them this, but the DEP has not been able to put their hands on one either.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Right now, they're still looking for it. Mr. Cundiff from the DPW is our point of contact with the DEP.
Yeah.
Working with them to try to secure it. We unfortunately just can't go through the post-permit application process. And if we had more time, I'm sure it could make it work, but have the luxury of time on our side.
Okay. So I just have one comment on the Liberty Field proposed site, and then I'll turn it over to the rest of the commission. Just I have a great deal of concern over the lack of parking. A dog park has been something that folks in town, my family included, has been hoping for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it would become wildly popular very quickly after opening. And I'm really concerned about the impact to that neighborhood. So that's yeah.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. It's like if having trick or treated in that neighborhood, and I know it's a tricky one for parking, and it's it is I don't think it's set up for a lot of people to be parking along the side of that field, and so that.
Very good, very valid concerns. We had thought we thought those were some of the concerns we had too. We thought maybe like a pull-in like Lundblad has, you can kind of make that going down and make parallel parking, but irregardless, you're probably not going to have a ton of spots, unfortunately.
On a sunny Saturday, I don't think it would be a stretch to get 50 or more cars there, honestly, especially when the thing first opens up.
Yeah.
And I understand the difficulties you're going through with Lundblad. It just has the incredible parking situation with the huge field of parking immediately in front of it that's as big as the field itself.
Yeah, I think we just want to deliver on the park.
Yeah, no, you're in a tough spot.
And we want to deliver on it, and we're going to exhaust all options. And unfortunately, not closing the door on Lundblad, we don't want to walk away from the grant. That's the hard part.
So other commissioners, questions, comments?
I was looking at the deed restriction and have a hard time convincing myself that a dog park would work there with fencing too. That's supposed to be left in its natural state. Or a soccer field for some reason, but that soccer fields usually don't have fences around them, and there's not one there now. So fencing in a dog park and adding parking seems like it would violate that as well.
Yeah.
In addition to being probably noisy for the neighbors and other complaints that we'd probably be opening ourselves up for.
Yeah, just one commissioner here, but from my perspective, Kevin brings up a very valid point that, I read through the deed restriction too, and it is to be left in its natural state in perpetuity and used only for the purposes of passive recreation. So we've dealt with other properties here in town about what passive recreation is, and so I think we have a pretty firm grasp on it. I think we'd have trouble stretching that definition to work here. And then with the parking situation, as much as I hate to say it, I don't think I could support the Liberty Field location. But that, I'm just one of five here this morning, the four here this evening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think definitely we'd probably want to hear from, people in the neighborhood too, before making this kind of decision. I don't think I would be comfortable, inflicting, 50 cars parked, trying to parallel park on Liberty Drive with dogs.
Right, I would say the same thing, Kevin, as the neighborhood had a chance to weigh in on whether they would find this to be favorable or not. There are a lot of people who live there who have dogs who might think that's terrific. But I think that if there were, serious consideration and really a viable path, given the deed restrictions, we'd want to hear from the neighborhood.
I just have a quick question. So if it was going to be used, and this is probably from Melissa, but if it was going to be used like something like a soccer field, would we not be allowed to use some of that field as parking and create a parking lot? Or it would be a soccer field and you'd have to park on the existing streets?
Yeah, so that's basically what it is now, is a soccer field with just parking on the street. So that was the one thing that it weirdly allowed, was it to make flat basically, but everything else is to remain in its natural state.
We can't we can't use that existing space at all to make a parking lot.
Yeah, the deed language actually allows two possible, uses in two separate areas of the law. In one area, it's allowed to be a soccer field, and then in the rest of it, it's allowed to require that it remain in its natural state in perpetuity. And the deed, it's actually pretty clear in the deed. I think it's a pretty hard sell to put parking in. And I think it's an issue that's complicated enough to go forward with that aspect of it. I think we'd have to get town council involved.
No, that's okay. I think we pretty much answered the question. I appreciate you guys taking the time. If there's any other sites that you guys think of,
oh yeah,
I've been trying, Travis.
It's been great, but I've been bouncing things off her left and right, and she's been awesome. I think we had a commission meeting last night, and Melissa already answered this question, but the commission wanted to ask about Breakneck Hill. I'm sorry, I'm new if I butchered that name, as a possible dog park location, just a small one, but Melissa said that that's probably a unlikely scenario as well. And those are the only two that the commission and myself, I think we had mentioned 120 Turnpike Road, but that doesn't sound like that's a reality either.
Yeah, you mentioned Breakneck Hill, that sort of is the informal dog park at this point. We're speaking in practicalities.
Breakneck is de facto that right now for the community.
And it's not always maintained the way it should be.
Yeah,
Makes me actually wonder the question of what if we formalized it, would that enable something different for that space, knowing that it is utilized that way pretty heavily right now and it's not being maintained to the extent that it could potentially be.
I'm sorry, I missed that first part. My volume went down. I missed Ben and Elizabeth. What did you guys have to add? Sorry, I missed that portion.
I was just being a wise guy and saying that Breakneck Hill is, from a practical standpoint, is the community's dog park at this point.
That's what we've heard. That's what the commission had mentioned at our meeting last night. I'm sorry to bring this up last minute, kind of informally, just the meeting last night.
And Liz, you were asking what would be involved in formalizing that? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, the commission's point were like your points. It's informal dog park right now. if there's any concerns with dogs and the wildlife running around. I mean, dog parks are such vary in depth and scope. I've seen some that are just like a fenced in like 30-yard by 30-yard area and that's it.
Yeah.
I've seen some that have shade structures with like elements that dogs climb on, with like a big dog and a small dog. So they vary in depth and scope. So if that is a site that is you might want to see a little bit.
I'm shaking my head no.
Yeah, yeah.
It is conservation land. It's not a dog park. I
Yeah,
mean, it's,
okay.
I think that we're trying to bring back indigenous birds and indigenous plants. And
Okay.
I think that it's fine to share with dogs, but I don't think we can have it become a town dog park.
Fair enough. Understandable.
Yeah, so.
That is my position.
Yep.
Yeah, and you know, obviously with that, we have a stewardship committee that does really the heavy lifting out there of taking care of that piece of property and
Yep.
and we couldn't really even entertain like
Yeah.
a full discussion about that without involving them. And I think, as Melinda points out, I think it'd be extraordinarily unlikely that we could make that work. But we will. I'm certainly gonna be racking my brain trying to think of a site that would work. Yeah.
Anything you do, anything you think of, please feel free to send our way. I know we're hopefully gonna make a dog park happen. We just don't want to walk away from this grant cycle. And I wish Lundblad, we're not closing the door on Lundblad quite yet. But it just the timeline doesn't sync up with unfortunately the construction grant cycle that we're gonna go through this year.
Well, I guess what I would try to think about, is there any other town-owned property that might have space for the smaller sort of format that you described for a dog park? Is there
Yeah.
anything back at the senior center or by this Fayetteville Town Hall? There are probably crazy wetland issues with a lot of these too.
Yeah.
But some of those sites have parking already, and if we could think about other potential land that's already within the town's jurisdiction, it might be possible. I just don't have a map of what that would be.
Yeah, we actually asked the assessor to pull any town owned lots that could be possible, and we couldn't find one that was suitable as well. So we're grasping at straws, and like I said, anything that you guys might think of in the next month, feel free to shoot our way.
Will do.
All right.
All right, listen, thank you so much for coming in and
Thank you
talking.
for the time. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for letting me join you guys. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Nice to meet you all.
Likewise. Okay. Okay, 34 Sears Road.
Yes, so I believe Shannon from Capital Group is here, so I'm going to load her in. But essentially, you know, I did look at the, you know, chapter 131, section 40 does include that language. You know, so I think we are at a point where what was provided, you know, is correct. You know, so I think it's just working with the homeowner at 20 Sears at this point to make sure that the final conditions of how they've cut the pipe and left it, you know, is just amenable for long-term solutions. And, you know, I'll let Shannon kind of fill us in on what she's done in the meantime too, I think, in terms of the agricultural aspect.
And we had asked for Shannon for a piece of documentation. It's escaping my mind right now, but I remember we did ask.
Yes, you were asking for documentation as to the commercial aspect of the exemption.
That's right. Yes,
Yes.
the agricultural exemption. Thank you.
Yes, I'm still working on that. I didn't have it in hand today. Unfortunately, I reached out to Melissa and requested that we could postpone that portion of this to the next hearing.
Yep.
We're scheduled on the next hearing for Stonebrook Village, so I'll come to attend for both of those if that's agreeable.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mhm.
Thank you. So I'm just reading through Melissa's notes. Melissa, is it your understanding that we really just need to rescind the enforcement order, even in the absence of the proof of the agricultural exemption?
Just from the, you know, timeline of when the property was
3 years.
purchased.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So one question on this timeline, does the transfer of the property reset that 3-year period?
Every time.
So
Every
this is
time
gonna
the
be
property is
hanging
paid.
over the future property owner's head the moment it transfers. Okay.
Right, that's why I want to get you guys that information so you can decide whether it meets the agricultural exemption, because we don't want to put that on a prospective buyer. The property isn't, there's no current idea to convey it at all. But the idea is if it does come down in the future, we don't want to put that on someone else to have to deal with.
I'm sorry, the clock resets. It can
Yes, every
expire
time
on one
days.
property owner, they sell it and then it resets for another 3 years.
Yes,
Right, learn something new every day.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we'll certainly, I would like to, if it's okay with the commission, to hold off on rescinding the enforcement order until we get the documentation on the agricultural use. And that would settle the whole matter in my mind. I think we can do this next meeting.
I would respectfully object to that because the two are separate issues. Whether it does meet the agricultural exemption, it doesn't matter what the statute to propose. It's not a part of that.
What's your recommendation here, Melissa?
You know, I think I can see it both ways, to be perfectly honest. You know, I can see rescinding it now because agricultural is kind of the ongoing use at this point because of the legality of the 3 years is over. So I think, you know, for it continued to be used, then yes, we still need that agricultural exemption. So it can also be something that you put in your motion contingent upon as well to kind of solidify the circle if that makes you more comfortable.
My thought was to simply make sure we get the documentation, but ultimately, I guess it behooves the property owners to get us that documentation on the agricultural exemption, regardless. So there's no objection from the commission. Maybe the thing to do is, you know, we don't have jurisdiction over the property, so we probably want to rescind the enforcement order because of this 3-year.
We missed our window, right?
We did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to work for a conservation commission, so I understand the pain. Yeah.
So with all that being said, well, first, Ed, questions, comments, anything from the commission before I ask for a motion? No. Okay, so is there a motion to rescind the enforcement order previously issued on 34 Sears Road?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks.
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, Shannon, we'll look forward to getting that documentation, hopefully at our next meeting for Stonebrook.
Perfect, yes.
And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye.
Okay. 2025 meeting dates.
Yes. So nothing we really necessarily need to vote on, but Laura put together our next year's meeting dates. You know, the one thing is that the first meeting is scheduled for the 2nd of January. If you guys are okay with that, we usually start that first week, but you know, it is kind of the day after New Year's. So I didn't know if that was something we wanted to move at all, even if it's just that one date.
Sorry,
Instead
I
of
have
shifting.
I have us on the 5th of December and then on the 26th of December. Are we not meeting the 26th of December?
No, we only do the first date
Okay,
in December.
so just the 5th. Okay.
Yep. For this year, you mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're just pushing it back a week. Oh, boy.
So then we start on the 2nd.
Yeah.
So then it'll be like the 2nd and then the 23rd,
Yep.
etc.
So we could, if we didn't want to do the 2nd, we could still keep all of the other dates, but we could have that first meeting on the 9th and just have 2 weeks between our first 2 meetings, which isn't terrible.
I don't mind doing the 2nd. I have to go back. I'm like back to work, back to reality. My kids are back in school. It's fine. I'm not going to be away.
I can actually do I can do the 2nd also.
I think the second's fine.
All right, cool. Just want to make sure.
All right.
All right, awesome.
I did notice
Uh,
Juneteenth is one of the dates, and I think that's a town holiday now, so we're gonna have to
It
reschedule.
is a town holiday.
And I think, so I was putting these on my calendar before the meeting, and also on October 2nd is Yom Kippur. I'm not sure if that's a date that we
Um,
exclude from meetings or not.
we can always push those forward a week or pull them back a week, as needed. To
I'll
adjust.
work
that.
on I'll work on a proposed June date. Is there a preference of, at least that one I know will have to change. Is there a preference of the week before or the week after?
For me, it would be the week before would be the preference, but
Yeah.
I could frankly do both.
I'm
Yeah,
just
we-
in my mind, I'm like, is that gonna be the last week of school? That's what I'm thinking about.
I think if it was the week before, they would still be in school, but the week after, they would probably be out.
Whatever. We'll figure it
Okay, all right, we'll get to it when we get to it.
out. I'm like, June's so far away right now.
Seems like it. Okay. So just some quick updates. I kind of got to this about 20 Sears, so I'll kind of make sure that the final conditions kind of jive with what we've just voted upon. Ironically, the pipe that was underground was already in the natural location of the stream. It wasn't as straight as they thought it was, so it was a much simpler process than they expected. 104 Sears Road. I had just sent a note to the owner to cover some of their stockpiles because we got some complaint about some dust. This has just a wetlands permit, but does come under our minor projects for SMP, so I did have some ability to request that. And then in terms of Breakneck Hill farm dump update, I have some happy news. Remediation is underway. Trucks are heading out there every day. And we are able to bring it to the facility in Maine, which is the cheaper option. So it sounds like most, if not all, which is the best possibility we could have, is going to be able to go to Maine. So that's a huge cost savings for us. The strategic, our contractor, and TRC, our engineer, have been absolutely fantastic. Being out there, TRC is out there every day, both for asbestos and environmental monitoring. We put up some new signs for trail closed because the contractor, especially in the morning, has had some few visitors that like to walk in the area, even though they tell him, we're not supposed to be here. So put up some more signs. I put up another news release on the website. I think I saw my Southborough picked it up too, so that was out there. But otherwise, we got our second extension from the ACO, from DEP, that let us have a timeline until March for completion, at least of the remediation aspect of it. So restoration can come after that. I did send a note to Stewardship Committee today, just quickly reminding them to come up with what they want for their cover crop and or their seed mix that they want to put down in that area, because that was something that they requested. So I want to make sure we have that available if it's something I have to order or obtain in some other way. But otherwise, things are going status quo. I'm very happy, very excited to see this done and over. And, by, hopefully June, which we think is so far away, but the property will be open and we'll have some, nice growing flush areas where little farm dump used to be. So all is well on that front.
Great.
Yeah. And then, otherwise, just a reminder, I am going out on vacation tomorrow. So Laura will be there. If you need anything, feel free to give her a call. Permits are going to be still sent out tomorrow, all that hubbub. So everything is good to go.
You going anywhere fun?
We're going to California.
That's fun.
See some family, take some time for ourselves, and then we have a wedding. So we kind of just made it a little bit longer and starting San Francisco, ending up in LA, and it'll be good.
Well, I hope you have a great time.
Thank you. We're going to the Monterey Aquarium. I'm very excited.
Ooh,
Oh, it's
cool.
good.
Yeah. But
All
other than
right.
that, that's it.
All right, if no one else has anything, we just need one last motion.
Motion to end the meeting. So moved.
Second,
Thank you.
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a great night. Enjoy your vacation.
Bye. Thank you.